Hi, welcome to part 5 of the video series about laws of motion. In the previous video, we have stated the second law of motion and solved some examples to see it in practice. In this video, we will state the third law of motion, see some of its applications, and have a look at some multiple choice questions related to the third law of motion. According to the third law of motion, when one body exerts a force on a second one, the second body simultaneously exerts an oppositely directed force of equal magnitude on the first body. On the image on the screen, we can see launching of a rocket to the sky. The engine of the rocket produces hot exhaust gases which flow out of the back of the engine. In reaction, these gases produce a thrusting force in the opposite direction. That's how a rocket can move upwards. In some cases, it's easy to understand the third law of motion, but in some other, our mind can struggle to accept it. Let's imagine a truck driving on a road and there is a not so heavy box standing on the road. Truck hits the box and slows down. At the same time, the box is rolling over the road due to the collision. The reason of the box rolling over is that during the collision, the truck has applied a huge amount of force on it. According to the third law of motion, the box has applied the same amount of force on the truck, and for most of us, it doesn't make sense at all. Let's try to visualize this equality in a layman manner. Let's write down the masses of two objects. The mass of the truck is way greater than the mass of the box, so we will type it with a much bigger font. On the other hand, the truck is just slowing down a bit, which means its acceleration is very small compared to the acceleration of the box. We know from the second law of motion that the net force is equal to the mass times acceleration. If we multiply masses and acceleration for both objects, we can see that the results will be equal. As a result, in this kind of situations, the object with the smaller mass has greater acceleration and the object with the greater mass has smaller acceleration, but products of masses and accelerations are same. Even though we are not fully aware of it, in our daily life, we use the third law of motion a lot. Maybe the most striking example is walking. While walking, we apply force on the floor in backward direction. As a result, the floor pushes us forward. Maybe our force is not doing much harm on the floor due to our small mass, but the same amount of force is able to move us forward. Similarly, while swimming, we also use help of the third law of motion. With each stroke of our hand, we try to push water backward, and as a reaction, water pushes us forward. We have already explained at the beginning of the video how our rockets are able to propel. In a fishing boat, we use the motion of oars in the water by displacing water to propel the boat forward. In exams, generally, the questions about the third law of motion are multiple choice ones. Of course, there are some questions which need calculations as well. These type of questions we will solve in the extra questions part of this video series. For now, let's see a couple of multiple choice ones. A man in a lift is moving upwards at a constant speed. The weight of the man is W. According to Newton's third law, the reaction force of the weight W is the force of A. Earth on the man, B. Man on the earth, C. Floor on the man, D. Man on the floor. We will learn more about the weight in one of the upcoming videos. For now, it is sufficient to know that it is the force applied on an object by Earth or a planet. If Earth applies a force on a man, according to the third law of motion, man will apply a force on Earth. So the answer is B. Which of the following observations from our daily lives do not refer to Newton's third law of motion. A rocket floats in a space. B. A man is able to walk on the ground. C. A mosquito flaps its wing to stay in flight. D. A rocket is propelled into space. According to the third law of motion, there must be two objects which will apply force on each other. In option B, a man applies force on the ground and ground applies force on a man. In option C, a mosquito wing applies force on the air while flapping and air applies force on the wing. In option D, a rocket applies force on the exhausted gases and the gases apply force on the rocket. Only in option A, there is no object pair to apply force on each other. So the answer is A. To summarize, in this video, we have stated the third law of motion, saw some of its applications, and had a look at some multiple choice questions related to the third law of motion. In the next video, we will learn about the universal law of gravity, how to calculate gravitational force applied on an object while it is on the surface of a planet and when it is at a certain height from the surface. At the end, we will learn the difference of mass and weight of an object. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications in order to be updated about my new videos.